100 years ago was really the invention of the drum set, because that's when Ludwig invented the bass drum pedal. So here we are, 100 years later, still doing it. It keeps evolving. And I want to talk a little bit of history too, because this year we lost some of our biggest drumming figures. Two of them I really wanted to meet and did get to meet, Mr. Jim Chapin and Mr. Louie Bellson. Louie Bellson was known in the drum industry to have one of the biggest hearts. And it happened to pass away right on Valentine's Day. Jim Chapin, who was one of Sanford Moeller's best students and the author of one of the greatest drum books of all time, he was the coordinator, really the founder of Coordinate Independence, and he passed away on Independence Day, just July 4th. I was lucky enough to take a lesson with Jim Chapin, and also I'm close with Don Famularo, who was one of Jim's best friends, so I got to learn a lot about him and influence him indirectly through that means. So I got started thinking about some of the history of drumming, and those two men did some magnificent things in the 1930s. One, Louie Bellson was about 16 years old when he was in art class, and he drew a picture. The picture was two bass drums. He submitted to the art teacher. He got a high grade, I forget, B or an A. That really was really bring out the double bass into the mainstream. He's known as inventing the double bass drum. However, there was one man down in Dallas who was playing double bass around the 1935, named Ray McKinley, a famous jazz drummer. So, but Louie was the one who really brought it into the mainstream and popularized it. So this is all happening in the 30s. Louie's inventing that. Jim Chapin, 1938, starts studying with Sanford Moeller of the famous Moeller technique and writes Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer, which every drummer should own this book. 1938. I'll show you a picture of the book. Okay, Advanced Techniques for the Modern Drummer by Jim Chapin. He wrote it in 1938. No one saw it until 1948. He kind of sat in his house one day. His mom brought it down to the music store, and she said, "Is this worth anything?" to the music store. The music store said, "This is the greatest thing I've ever seen." So they started publishing it in 1948. They used to publish it with blue ink, all blue, and the letters would be white. But then Jim ran out of blue ink, so they went with this. So they had just a little blue ink. Okay, that was in the 1930s. Also in the 1930s was where they founded a group called the National Association of Rudimental Drummers, which popularized the American rudiments. The rudiments didn't start here. They came from, Chris, they came from Switzerland, right?
Okay, yeah, a lot of rudiments, at least 14 out of the 40s that PAS are officially now. In the 50s, actually the Americans came to Basel, while drumming was really famous. So they picked up 14 Swiss rudiments. So I wouldn't say it just came from Switzerland. It might come from the French, Scottish, British drummers originally before the Americans, before Americans got founded. But in the 50s, you guys had 26 rudiments. In the 50s, you came to Switzerland, Basel, and you picked up 14.
Great, there's
So 40 now, like officially, PAS.
Yeah, there's a great explanation. Swiss Chris did a great rudimental presentation back when he was at Berkeley that was really received. So what happened was these guys created this group, and they said, okay, let's start this group, and drummers have to know how to play these stickings to get into our group. And guys like George Stone were there, and Ed Strait and Jay Burnsmore. George Stone is the man who wrote Stick Control. You see my copy is all beaten up now. I kind of practiced through it a lot. But he wrote this in 1935, one of the greatest drum books of all time. Well, he was a member of that original group in the 1930s. So a lot has happened in the 1930s, and I started thinking about the 1930s because two people who did huge things in the drum world just passed away this year. Okay, that is the history portion. Another thing I recommend though is, it's funny, I don't even work here, but I'm recommending products. Legends of Jazz Drumming. Louie Bellson is the narrator of this. Amazing film. I was at Dom's house one day. I was watching this in the living room, waiting for a lesson. Louie Bellson is the narrator. This film is just unbelievable.